Hello, everyone. This is Maria Fakes, Executive Director of Adonis Fertility International. So I'm so excited to be here with you today. We have just an open Q&A, open discussion, and I already have some questions that were sent ahead of time, so I'm going to go through them. In the meantime, if you have any questions that are coming up to your mind, there is a chat function in your YouTube. You could see it, right where. Oh, hang on. Of Adonis Fertility International. So I'm so excited to be here with you today. We have just an open Q&A, open discussion, and I am so sorry, guys. Again, I'm getting used to this different switch of technology between Zoom and YouTube and everything. It looks like I had several streams going at the same time. So hopefully you could hear me okay right now. All right, so let's continue. So in your YouTube interface, there is a chat function. So feel free to ask any questions as we're moving ahead. But I'm just going to proceed with the questions as they came in before the session. And in no particular order, okay? Let's jump in. Well, maybe, before those particular questions, let me just give a little bit overview, because a lot of times we're being asked the questions, what is the relationship between Adonis Fertility International in the United States and Adonis Medical Group located in Ukraine, okay? Guys, we like a phenomenal question. We like to call ourselves International Department of Adonis, okay? So, and we are located in USA. So all of the medical operations, all of our, surrogates, egg donors, everyone is located in Ukraine. Adonis Medical Group is really the largest private medical operation in Ukraine. It started, almost 30 years ago, and has grown to a phenomenal network of different hospitals and clinics and diagnostic centers, and so many different services, that really fall under Adonis umbrella, okay? And so 2 years ago specifically, we have made a decision to open a facility also in the United States. This is coordination and support, so that's what Adonis Fertility International is. And again, we are not an agency, we're really an integral part of Adonis Medical Group. And the reason we have done it is so we could support our families, clients, from United States and Canada, really North America, in your real time zone. And we could do so many other phenomenal things for you by being located in such a close proximity to you. Okay, but again, we are not separate entities. We're not the agency that, then just picks and chooses and subcontracts whoever. We are integral part of Adonis, and we believe in Adonis with all our heart. And like, I'm one of the biggest fans probably, and I'm so passionate. So that question was not on my list, but I know this question is constantly coming up. So thank you for allowing me to share that. So one of the questions is, what are the legal requirements for intended parents for surrogacy programs in Ukraine? Okay, so the requirements as following, and guys, this is really outlined in law of Ukraine, and the rules are quite strict. So first of all, when we talk about surrogacy in Ukraine, we have many families from United States, from Canada, selecting specifically surrogacy in Ukraine, not just because of the cost, cost, absolutely, it's so much more cost effective to do it in Ukraine, but a big consideration is parental right establishment, right? It's, how your decision-making process is being protected. When are you and how are you becoming the parent of a child? This is very important questions to ask when you're looking into international programs, right? And I guess into local programs as well. So Ukraine is really unique that you're the parent of the child from the moment of conception, okay? Surrogate does not have any rights, any claims to your child. The child is yours and only yours, okay? So is also, the donor does not have any claims on your child as well. With all of this, yes, there are some limitations as far as who could be part of the surrogacy program in Ukraine, right? Who could be accepted into the program. And by law, it states that surrogacy in Ukraine is available only to heterosexual married couples, okay? This is, sometimes we get questions. we are in civil marriage, right? We don't have STEM, but we have lived for many years together. Can we be part of the program? The answer is no. Okay, you have to be legally married. You have to have an actual marriage certificate. More than that, we'll also be requiring an apostille to this marriage certificate, right? So an apostille, if you don't know what it is, it's really an additional document, it's an additional way of verification that the document that you're presenting, in this case, a marriage certificate, is indeed a legal document. It was not signed, by your neighbor, your brother, or someone, right? The person who signed and witnessed, that marriage, the judge or, clerk, whoever was doing that marriage certificate, was indeed authorized to do that. Okay, so that's how serious that requirement is. Next requirement is that you must have a genetic connection to a child. Okay, so what does it mean? If you're married, and let's say if you're using an egg donor, you could say, well, only, then wife does not have a connection to a child, genetic connection, but husband does. That's okay. So as long as you have at least one of you, right, from the married couple, one or both of you have the genetic connection to a child, you could be part of the surrogacy program. We have some instances when, fortunately, families, they have very unique situation. They needed to use both of the donors, a sperm donor and an egg donor. Guys, in this case, by the legislation of Ukraine, it's not going to be a surrogacy. It might be an adoption program or something else, but it does not fall under regulation of surrogacy. And another requirement is it's a medical indication for surrogacy. Surrogacy in Ukraine is not a nice to have procedure. I know in some other countries, including in the United States, you could go through the surrogacy program because this is your wish. In Ukraine, surrogacy is only available with the medical indication. In essence, your doctor, okay, and it's not, Adonis, it's not, the clinic, who's going to be doing the process. It's your doctor in your country, the doctor who really knows your case will need to specify and write a medical indication letter that would state what are the reasons why you're required, why you yourself cannot carry a pregnancy. And definitely you could reach out to us. We would work with you, listening to your situation, getting you approved. It's something, all of these validations we like to do from the very beginning. Okay, we don't want you to go down the rabbit hole, have all of the documents submitted and everything. We want to clear all of these questions for you because these are very important questions that will be then part of your exit process as well. And we always want to start with your end goal in mind. You having a child and, coming back to, becoming officially a parent of this child and also coming back to the country of your origin. All right. The next question is, if I do not have embryos created yet, how the IVF process would look like in Ukraine? Okay, great question. So again, there is no the same type of surrogacy journey, the same type of fertility journey for everyone, right? Each of you might be starting from a different perspective. Some of you might be coming to the question of surrogacy and you already have embryos created. If that's your case and you have embryos, we're going to do a full coordination of your biotransport, not a problem. Okay, so we'll do all of the due diligence with the paperwork, everything. Now, if you are at the position where you need to go through the surrogacy and you're saying, but I do not have embryos created yet, and it's not an egg donor program, for example, right? So yes, in this case, you will need to go through the embryo creation process, the IVF process. And of course, you have a choice of doing IVF in your country, let's say in the United States or Canada, if that's where you're coming from, or you could do it with us at Adonis. We definitely love to welcome our families, help you with the IVF process, be responsible for your process from the beginning to the end. We would love to do that. So IVF, then what we need to look into is, of course, immediate question comes to mind, how long do you need to be then away from home? How long you need to plan your trip for? We suggest that you plan for maybe about 21 days, right? And this is including, some of, you're arriving, there might be some additional tests that you need to take, and we're going to send you a list of all of the required tests and examinations that you need to do before IVF. because we're responsible for you. We need it to be, it's all about creating a safe and transparent process for you. And then you're going to go into the stimulation, and typically stimulation would be probably about 14 days or something like that. Again, it's just hypothetical, because before you would travel, we would do the review of all of your medical files. And we'll also require, even though we can do this test, but it's a good idea to have some of the key tests to be done ahead of time. So then we could do the planning session with the medical team at Adonis, and we could really build a very custom specific process to you. So those tests that we would say it's good to have ahead of time and have it reviewed is your hormonal panel. Okay, and definitely, reach out to me as a follow-up. Would be happy to provide you the exact list of tests. And it's also some of your key ultrasounds. It's your, basically, pelvic area ultrasound, your mammogram. Why are those things important? We do get questions like, why are those things important? Why should we do some of the ultrasounds? Guys, here's the thing. If you already went through IVF, you perhaps know that. If you have never went through the IVF process, maybe this is new to you. It's not just about, what's happening to your ovaries, right? It's not just about, follicle count, all of those things. It's not. It's also about, do you have any cysts, right? What is other, how is your overall health looks like? If you have, things like cysts or any other, possible deviation or something, that could be a contraindication to your stimulation, right? Doctors will not move forward with that. Same as if your mammogram will show any growth or something, you will not be able to go through the stimulation because it could have an impact on your health. Okay. So in general, in a nutshell, that's how it looks like. So you would arrive, you would do, maybe a couple of days, you would come and do some tests, or if everything already done ahead of time, we would plan it very tightly to the beginning of your cycle. Again, I don't want to give you like very specific, like in general terms, yes, I kind of shared that with you, but every case is unique. So the best route of action is definitely reach out, let us understand your specific situation, let us outline what kind of tests you need to bring, what we need to review, let us have the meeting with the medical doctor, and then plan your trip as precise as possible. Okay. And let me check, let me see if there is any, I'm looking right now. Okay, the next thing we are looking into, okay, so I kind of went into this question, what are the key tests couples should take before IVF or before surrogacy? Okay, I went before IVF. Now, before surrogacy, the test, again, we'll send you the list. Now, if you're doing, let's say, surrogacy with the egg donation, the list is much shorter. This is more, will be the test, just for the husband. Some of the tests for the infectious diseases, sperm analysis, and just a couple others, but we'll provide that information to you. In what cases surrogacy should be considered versus IVF? Okay, well, again, it's a very two sides, I would say. It is a personal question. Not every, there's a medical question, again, you have a medical indication, you physically cannot carry a child, right? There are several conditions that will prohibit you yourself to carry a child and will not, or even if you get pregnant, maybe it will not bring it to success, right? There might be some risks to your health, right? So this is some of the considerations, and your doctor definitely will know what are those cases, what are those recommendations. Now, there's also could be a personal reason, right? Not every family that is going through the question and they're saying, okay, am I myself carrying a child? It's not every woman could go through this journey by saying, yes, I'm okay for another woman to go through the surrogacy, to carry my child, right? So let us come together. We always ask the question, like, who's your support system, right? And we love to talk, when you make a decision, we love to talk to both sides of the journey. We love to talk to husband and wife, because this is such an important, such a vulnerable decision. And I know sometimes when just one of you is asking questions, it might be very hard to have candid discussion. Then, behind the scene. So having both of you and having a safe environment to ask those questions that are very vulnerable, could be a great place to just understanding, is it really a good solution for you or not? We also, of course, have, a psychologist support as well, a medical support if needed, both in Ukraine and in the United States. We have like phenomenal resources as well if needed. So let's discuss. But again, you would consider IVF versus surrogacy. Medical reasons obviously would be one of the big ones. How are surrogates and donors are being tested? Okay, great question. So we get a lot of those questions. I'm going to start with surrogacy and then I'm going to move into the donors. So specifically, again, I cannot speak for all of the organizations that operate in Ukraine. I'm going to be, of course, putting everything through the lenses on how Adonis Medical Group does it. Okay, and we are very proud of this process. So our surrogate, they go through a very detailed medical psychological evaluation, and through really several rounds of the interviews and testing and procedures. And then at the end, there is a group of doctors that will need to be signed off on that surrogate. Okay, it's literally a commission of doctors. It's not just one doctor in a respective area. It's all of those doctors that are part of the revision of the condition of the surrogate, because we're talking about, like I said, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about physical health, we're talking about under the physical health, we're talking about, gynecology, reproduction. We're talking about overall health conditions, right? So many different experts need to come together and say, we absolutely, from our point of view, everything that I know about this woman is a great match to be a surrogate. I have seen cases where, maybe one doctor out of 5 would have some concerns, right? And it's not like majority rules. If a single doctor has the slightest concern out of this group, the surrogate will not be approved into the program, okay? Again, if you're interested, definitely could submit to you the exact list of tests. And I know that our tests on the medical side, they go far above and beyond what Ministry of Health of Ukraine is requiring. And it's because at Adonis, we work on a lot on international projects, and we also know what it means to have a healthy woman, carry a child. But I would be able to submit this information to you. As far as donor testing, and of course, and because the question was specifically about testing, I'm not going into the details like, the age requirements, it's already given, right? What the age is accepted into the surrogacy. And by the way, we are more narrow than what Ministry of Health of Ukraine is requiring. It's also, the BMI index, of course, it's, woman in both cases, surrogacy and egg donor needs to have already a child and uncomplicated pregnancies. So all of those things do go into consideration. It's already given. Now for the donor, yes, we also, there is very specific, list of testing that we're going through. Donors also go through the genetic testings, and we can provide the list for you as well. In addition, so we know that when you're selecting an egg donor, we also have to look into your specific situation. So for example, if you have a certain condition, you're a carrier of certain genetic condition or something, we're going to do additional testing specifically for your situation as well, just to make sure that the donor is not the carrier of that as well. And guys, I'm so used to just having like an interview, so I don't know if some questions I'm responding, deep enough. So please, if you have any follow-up questions, do, type in the chat. And you also could be sending a follow-up email. You could just send it to Maria at adonisfertilityintl.com, or you could use support at adonisfertilityintl.com. So definitely we'll get back to you. Okay, I'm just moving on and I'm scanning if there's any live questions, but if not, I'm just moving on with my list, okay? Next thing is how surrogates are emotionally prepared for the demands of the program. Okay. Great question, right? We actually have done a very specific webinar specifically about that. And I could send, if you need, we could definitely send you the link for that particular webinar. The doctor, who was speaking with us, she is just a phenomenal doctor. She's the head of OBGYNs at one of our Adonis clinics. And she was really spending a lot of time on this emotional side. From the very beginning, we need to make sure, it's not just the question, how can we prepare a surrogate for that emotional journey? And of course, it is emotional, right? It's on so many ends. Just imagine you carrying a child for someone else, the level of responsibility that you have, like, I cannot even imagine. I mean, it's huge, right? It's enormous. So, but there is also place for the surrogate. And as we mentioned, in Ukraine, surrogate does not have a decision power in the process, right? She is there. So the doctor said that, first of all, she needs to understand what is her role. And we have to be extremely transparent and open about that role. It's very vital, right? It's not how we make her fit then into those requirements. From the very beginning, she needs to come from the place of deep understanding and respect of those rules and her role. And the role, as doctor said, is very vital, right? Of course, without her, it's, she's doing such a gift to the family. Without her role, that process would not be possible. But it's also very humble, right? Very humble role. She has to follow the decisions of the doctors, the decisions of the family. She's there to be that vessel, to be that carrier. She's there to love and care and that child that is in making, and treasure that life that is within her. So immediate, psychological support and evaluation and really deep conversations from the very beginning with the surrogate is one of the big steps in managing that emotional, in preparing her emotionally for the journey. And of course, throughout the journey, we have, coordinators in constant contact with the surrogate. They have such a phenomenal relationships. So at any moment, if there are any questions, any concerns that the surrogate has, she could always reach out. We'll always have psychological help throughout the pregnancy. And then I was also very impressed when I was in Kiev. I was actually part of the delivery process, witnessing, how delivery is happening in our maternity hospital. And so that continuation of that psychological support that is then happening, not just throughout the journey, but also during delivery, right? And after delivery is so important as well, because no matter how much you're ready for that step, to deliver a child for someone, no matter how much you are preparing for that, and we have many returning surrogates as well, then absolutely, just the moment you give a birth to a child, and also all of these hormones and everything that goes through you, that could be, different deviations. So I was just so proud of our team to see that there is that very serious attention to emotional side, and the psychologist is there, helping surrogate to really go through the, through that, separation and the closure of that process as well. And again, it all goes back to our belief that we're responsible not just, to you, to your child, to your success. We're also responsible for that woman who's doing the biggest gift. And I'm getting notification. Great. So here is a couple questions. So thank you so much. What is cost for surrogacy? How long is the wait to start the process? I cannot use my eggs. Okay, great. Great questions. And it looks like we have several questions in one. So stay with me as I'm going to be answering each of them. So first question is, what is cost for surrogacy? And thank you so much for premising that you cannot use your eggs. So it means that you are talking about egg donor program. So yes, for the egg donor program with the surrogacy, actually, we have a very phenomenal program that we call guaranteed program. Guys, it's at the end of that program, you will have a baby, okay? That guaranteed program costs $55,000. And I could walk you through the details, what is included. So many things is included, but basically what it is, You know, it includes the egg donor, you know, stimulation and, you know, egg retrieval. It includes surrogate. It includes change of egg donor if needed, right? Change of the surrogate if needed. It includes PG testing for your embryos. It includes hospitalization. It includes the stay of the surrogate mother after at the 7th month of pregnancy, you know, pregnancy observation, all of the legal costs. Like, it's literally your journey from start to finish, okay, and including all of the, if for any reason any of the multiple attempts or anything is needed, is built in as well. So again, that's why it's called, you know, we're calling it unlimited guaranteed program. So it's $55,000. Now that program comes with a requirement for sperm. Okay, so again, I do not know your situation. I would love to speak with you. So feel free to reach out and we could discuss those requirements for sperm, right? So as long as the sperm meets the requirements of that program, you could be part of that program. If for any reason, you know, there is deviation and, you know, there is, you know, we need to consider a different type of program, you know, because of that sperm quality, then we have some, you know, backup solutions as well. Other programs, also phenomenal, right? It's just, you know, some of the contents, there's just not as many things that we could include into that because there is, you know, some more risk associated with your program, but definitely some phenomenal offer. And I believe with the egg donor, it's going to be starting somewhere maybe around 45,000 from start to finish, but this is with a single attempt. And then we could be talking about, you know, how much would be to add other attempts and so forth. With those programs, so if you're not going with unlimited, we do also have an insurance available. So if we need to look into mitigating some of the risks, some of the considerations, we could have that as well. Oh, and thank you so much for sharing that. The feedback came that husband has a vasectomy in 2000. So vasectomy is actually one of the contradiction to that unlimited program. But again, let us review, you know, let us review your case. Let us take it offline and let us see what other possibilities are there and what can be considered. Okay, but I would say, you know, between $45,000 to $55,000 is what you're looking for the whole program. It's all the way through, you know, all of the exit and baby registration of the, you know, our legal fees. So all of that is included. So let's talk in more details. How long is the wait to start the process? Guys, so you could start, you know, the way I like to break it out for you, I would say it's very easy to start with us. You know, let's say by the time you understand, you know, everything that program entails, you like everything that we have to share, everything about the program and how we run it, and you saying yes, at that moment, we're just asking, you know, for a very like, it's almost like a handshake, you know, it's $100 processing fee, we call it, it's already built into your program. And you start with, so that just indicates you are serious, we're serious, and we're running full speed ahead. Immediate step, we're doing a program planning with you where we're helping you get all of your documents ready, we're outlining, we're really working with you to understanding your timeline and everything, right? And if you're ready to run, okay, we're going to be running with you. We had like one of the processes was where literally the all of the documents, the biotransport, everything was done in 11 days. Okay, but I mean, that family was running. They already had a postal, they already had medical indication letter and some other things. If you don't have any of that ready, no worries, we will get you ready. But again, we're coming to this planning meeting the way we could understand your timelines, right? We're gonna do the matching of your surrogate to your process because it's no good for me to give you the surrogate right now while you cannot really do anything with her, right? Like, you know, if your embryos are not ready yet. So for example, in your case, you have you know, your embryos will still need to be created because it's a donor program, right? So we're going to be looking at overall timelines, and let's say, you know, hypothetically, you start now, you know, we get the sperm and everything and all your documents by middle of October. You're selecting a donor in parallel. The donor stimulation and everything, the egg retrieval is happening, let's say, end of October, beginning of November. Then the question is, do we do PGT testing or not? If it's, you know, guaranteed program, you know, it's a mandatory requirement. We do the PG testing and it's already included. So that's about, you know, 2 to 3 weeks there. So let's say, third part of November or end of November, you have your embryos ready, PG tested and ready to go. And that's what we're projecting. We're going to start selecting the surrogate close to this time frame, right? You most likely will start seeing the candidate already ahead of your PGT results, okay? That's how really we like to work. So in essence, we'll say we do not have a wait list because we time our surrogates so close to your process, okay? And the payment, again, depending on the type of program that you have, the payment plan will vary. So definitely let's talk about, particular type of the situation. So some plans, they could have more flexible schedule where we literally could be looking what is best for your particular situation. There are some mandatory payments, but we definitely could look into what is possible. And some programs like that unlimited guaranteed surrogacy program, there is no flexible schedule. There is a very set payment of schedule that you will go through. I think it's broken into like 4 or 5 payments. So I could definitely send you the details about that if you send me your email. Okay, another question, and that actually did not come right now into the chat here in the YouTube, but it just came into my Viber. So thank you for sending. It talks about IVF and the stem cell. Okay, just because earlier we were talking about IVF. So the question is, if I have low egg reserve, is there anything can be done with the IVF process, or is my only option an egg donor? Great question, guys. Great question. And I don't know if you might have seen, I know the marketing team has been doing a lot of the kind of, promotion advertisement in this area, just because we have noticed such a huge need for exactly what you're asking for. And that's why we have really started talking more about our unique program of IVF and stem cell treatment. Okay. Again, it's very unique to each situation, but we will need to get, your medical analysis. We'll need to work with the medical doctor to clear you through this process. But as an exploration process, as the possibility, when you are saying having my genetic connection to a child is so vitally important, right? There's no one to tell you what's right way of doing things or not. But if in your heart you're saying this is important to me, okay, and before I could go, yes, I have a dream of a child, and yes, egg donor is a possibility to me, but man, if I cannot have my chances increased even by any percent, if I could have this one chance out of a million, I still want to explore that. So in this case, absolutely, that stem cell treatment that we have and stem cell program that goes in combination with your IVF egg retrieval could be a phenomenal option. And actually, we are getting so many questions about that right now. And again, especially since marketing is sharing this information. Next time we're meeting for our bi-weekly webinar on October 6th, I believe. We're going to have a doctor who's leading that program with us, our Dr. Arlova. She will be speaking specifically in details about that process. But in a nutshell, so yes, so if whatever reason, you have low egg reserve, you have, and especially if a lot of the women coming, after a certain age, that they're saying there is no hope. So first, there are several portions to that particular program. And first portion would be, you would be arriving to Adonis in Kiev, and you would be doing that, stem cell portion of the program. You would plan for about maybe 4 to 5 days, to be there. And it's where the certain injections with the stem cell material will be administered, right, to your ovaries. And then you would go back and, to your origin, country of origin, to your residency. And it could be maybe a period of the 3 months where it's being monitored, the impact of that, and, the periodic test will be done. And then if everything goes well, and again, we have seen such phenomenal results from it, right, that we cannot say that this is for everyone, right? But that's where the doctor will be looking into your medical test and medical results. having deep conversations of what could be possible, what some things, could be done, what could be some of the considerations, right? And if you're a great candidate, that will be done. But then again, reaction of everybody is extremely, unique and in every case. But we have seen significant number of cases where the improvements are definitely there. And so once it has been confirmed, through those periodic tests, during the wait time, since the stem cell treatment has happened, then perhaps in 2 to 3 months, then you would be scheduled to come for already the stimulation and the egg retrieval, the IVF portion of that. So this is kind of like in a nutshell, and we will dive into all of these questions, what kind of stem cells is being used, more details on the process, are there any contraindication? What is the feedback from the current patients? What are some other considerations? We're going to dive deep during our October 6th session. So if that's something is of an interest to you, so please come. But also if you want to ask some questions in the meantime, you could do that as well. Just send me an email. I'm reading, is there an age limit for surrogacy for the patient is what I mean, for the parent is what I mean. Guys, phenomenal question. There is no legal, by legislation in Ukraine, there is no limitations to the age. It's nowhere listed. We do not have the age limitations as well. We have patients from all over the walks, okay? Going back to your transparent conversation between you as husband and wife, between your priorities, I think that's really where you're starting. If you're the one who is saying, this is my dream, and it doesn't matter how old I am ready to be a parent. I'm ready to take on this challenge. That's all what my life is about. We are there to support you. We have some families, I don't even want to put the age limit because I really want to say it's ageless. We have some families, guys, who have been denied by some programs in the United States. We have some families who in their countries were told by surrogates after they waited for several years to get matched, were denied by surrogates in their countries that they said, you know what, I think you're too old to be a parent. Those conversations just break my heart, because again, who are we to judge? We are not here to judge you. We're here to listen to you carefully, listen to your priorities, and then build the process around it. So to answer, short answer to your question is no, there is no age limit, okay? And we would be happy to support you, no matter how young or how old you are. Okay. Skimming through questions, and thank you so much. My team is giving me heads up when questions shows up because I'm looking everywhere on my cell phone and on YouTube and on my list that was sent ahead of time. So thank you guys. Continue typing your questions. Great feedback. In what cases PGT, preimplantation genetic testing, is being recommended? Okay, we get this question so many times. Guys, again, no cookie cutter approach. I really, first of all, full disclosure, I am not a medical professional. My team here in the United States, when we're supporting our patients in North America, we do not have, medical expertise. All of our medical expertise is in Ukraine. So for any of these questions, we always would defer it to our medical team. We'll gather your information. We will bring it to the medical team. We'll provide you the feedback if needed. We'll have a consultation with the doctor. I'm going to share with you what I am noticing from those conversations that I have been part of. No cookie cutter approach. There is, so first of all, again, about some terminology. Sometimes people are saying PGD, D as in David, PGT, T as in Tom, PGS, S as in Sam, right? You could see like that ending is changing. And sometimes even, family thinks that they're different type of testing. Well, actually, they're all the same part of testing. It's just how the terminology has evolved. All of them, in essence, are the same things. One stands for preimplantation genetic screening, preimplantation genetic testing, preimplantation genetic diagnostics. All of them are the same. As of right now, the latest terminology that is being used is PGT, preimplantation genetic testing. Most common type of testing that is being used is PGT-A, aneuploids, right? So unless you know of some very specific, unique deviation, some type of a genetic condition that is with you, you might be a carrier of, or runs in your family, most likely that's going to be the type of testing, PGTA, that will be used. We have some cases where it's PGTM, for example, and some others might be used. A very special probe, a special type of testing will be designed for your condition. You will know, in this case, your doctors will know that, yes, you cannot go into the, further steps until you do that testing on your embryos, because some condition is so severe in your family, and you could just not go without knowing, right? Because the child then will be produced in the process could be potentially a carrier, could be impacted by the genetic condition that you have, and you absolutely need to make sure. Right now, again, the question is, is it recommended? Is it not? Guys, yes, PGT is being recommended, if let's say you have certain number of failed IVF attempts, right? Again, if you have certain genetic conditions that you're aware of, if you are past certain age, right? And because I'm not the medical doctor, I don't want to give you specific age in this condition because I don't want to misstate it. But again, I'm just giving you some of the examples when I heard that it is being recommended, highly recommended. Now, could you override that? Like, we like to say that we are here to equip you with knowledge. Ultimately, you're the decision maker, okay? There will be questions that will come back to you and we'll say, okay, we'll lay out everything for you, but you will make a decision whether you want to do it or not, okay? But I love that open discussions and open conversations. I love when doctors are sharing that feedback, and you're really positioned to make this best decision that for you that is possible. One of the misconceptions that some families are having, that I also noticed throughout those conversations, families think that PGT, preimplantation genetic testing, is increasing your chances of implantation. By itself, test, guys, it's just a test, it's just diagnostic. It does not increase your chances. It does not make your embryo any better or worse. It does not, okay? But it provides a data point, an additional data point to the medical team, to the embryologist, when they're making a decision which embryo to transfer first or to transfer next. They have the visual classification by which they could see and analyze your embryo, right? And they could say, there's a particular quality of your embryo. But then they cannot look inside of that embryo. And that's where many doctors, even if you don't have necessarily the age recommendation or any of this abnormality or anything, they still might ask you to consider preimplantation genetic testing, because they will say it gives an additional parameter. If you have 9 embryos, 6 embryos, whatever number of embryos, imagine going through all of those tests and trials, right? Because if there is a genetic condition within an embryo, and that embryo, does not implant, or maybe the embryo, does not continue developing, unless you have that data, you will not be able to lean on it, right? So this is just some of the consideration, but it does not, again, it does not improve your embryo. It does not improve your chances of implantation for that particular embryo, because it does not heal it. It does not improve it in any way. Does that make sense? Right? So bottom line is, let's have conversations. Let's review your situation. Let's ask those questions of the medical team and professionals, and let's see what they're proposing. Okay. Next thing, how long does it take to get the match? Okay, we actually answered that. To get the match of the surrogate, answered that question. How many embryos can be transferred at a time? Guys, again, I'm talking through the lenses of Adonis. And I'm checking right now if there are any other questions came up. At Adonis, we allow transfer of up to 2 embryos at the same time. Okay, so 1 embryo or 2 embryos will be transferred. Again, if you're making decision for 2 embryos at the same time, the conversations about twins will be happening with you, right? We need to make sure that you understand the potential risks that are associated with the twin pregnancy. It has nothing to do with assisted reproductive technology. It's really, that twin pregnancy, it's a harder type of pregnancy, no matter if it's a natural pregnancy or if it's assisted reproductive technology pregnancy. Yes, so there is a statistic, of woman who's carrying the pregnancy developing high blood pressure and some other, side effects. It doesn't happen every single time, but it is, we're talking about the risk, right? And our goal is to give you not just a child, but a healthy child. So that's why we need you be equipped again for your decisions, so you know pros and cons for those decisions, right? But but again, you could transfer up to 2 embryos. Okay, and so then we have a special pregnancy observation that is phenomenal. For the twin pregnancy, we definitely have doctors of the highest category at our maternity hospital to take on whatever type of pregnancy is there. We do have quite a few families going through the twin pregnancies with their surrogates. So everything is possible. But again, it's all about open discussion and communication, right? What are the consideration twin versus single journey? I think I kind of answered that in one of above. Yes, but we could definitely explore more. How long do parents need to stay in Ukraine after the baby is born? Okay, great question. So depends on country for which you're receiving citizenship. Okay, so this will be important consideration again, because I'm here representing United States and Canada. We are here right in the heart of the United States located, me and my team. We naturally deal in majority cases with the United States and Canadian citizenship for the baby. Okay, and so I cannot tell how it will look like, how long it would look like for, let's say, Australia or some European countries. I do not know, but we definitely could ask those questions. But let me answer through the perspective of United States and Canada. So we are asking you to plan for 4 weeks, okay, 3 to 4 weeks from the moment that the baby is born. Okay, and we have some cases where like literally we had right now have several families going through the exit process for the United States actually, and so we have one that they will finish literally under 2 weeks. Okay, they received like all of their paperwork, passport, everything. And then we had some families who closer like average to 3 weeks, and we also have 4 weeks as well. I would rather you plan on a more on a more bigger side, right? Plan for longer, but then if needed, return earlier. Here's the thing. We're going to look into every single opportunity to minimize your time of stay for the exit process. But there is just some things that there is just no way around, right? And many of the things will depend on the timeline of the embassy. In the nutshell, the process looks like that. You will be receiving, so the baby is born. Our attorneys immediately will be preparing the paperwork and work with you to get the registration of the child done to where you receive the birth certificate. I have seen things, be done like between 3 to 5 days. Okay, like very fast. You get your birth certificate. At the same moment, we're working with you to get your appointment with the embassy. Okay, and then that really kind of jumpstart your already citizenship process. Now, here's where some of the timeline could be outside of your or our or anyone's control. We had a family who, let's say, family from the United States, who arrived on like literally when there were several back-to-back holidays in May. The baby decided to be born right on the verge of those holidays, and so the embassy was on 2 Ukrainian holidays and on 1 United States holiday. So literally for almost like a week and a half, the embassy was not working. You know what I mean? Like this is something that no one can control, right? So that's what we're saying. So can things be done earlier than 4 weeks? Absolutely, we see it done. Can they take longer, than 3 weeks? Yes. So we ask you to plan to be on the safe side for 4 weeks. And I'm talking about, again, United States and Canada. I cannot speak for other countries, but come back to us, ask us questions, we'll be able to validate the process for you. Okay, what are the key milestones of the baby registration citizen establishment? It looks like I also just have answered that as well. But in essence, the milestones are you receiving the documentation for you're receiving the birth certificate. By the way, a phenomenal thing about birth certificate in Ukraine is no surrogacy is mentioned, right? only your names are on the birth certificate to the whole world. This child is yours, right? No matter if it was egg donor program or not, you are the parents of the child. The only difference would be is the place of birth. It will say, Ukraine, obviously, but otherwise it's your names, husband and wife, and the child name. So that's great. And then you go through the documents, application process for the citizenship. For the United States, we also have mandatory right now, mandatory process for also the DNA testing. For Canada, as of right now, I believe that has been lifted, but again, we always triple check all of the processes before you exit. So then you receive, that for USA, you get the test results back, you apply and receive the temporary passport, and then you also could receive the actual, long-term passport for the child as well. Now that would take about a week longer. So it will depend if you have the time capability to stay longer or not. So if you could stay longer, absolutely, you will receive that other passport. Otherwise, you already could be traveling with your temporary passport, and then you would be able to get the passport, apply for another passport from within the United States. So not a problem at all. All right, so let me skim right now. I am done with my questions here. I'm looking through the questions. Okay, let me see if there is. Okay, I didn't see any questions additional in chat. So we have like 8 minutes, guys, but I don't want you to just, sit for the sake of sitting. So let me see. Another question comes to mind. A lot of times families are asking, can there be, other diagnostics? Well, actually, one of the questions I know always comes up is about, they would say, like, is Adonis just a clinic? And I know it seems quite basic maybe, but it's not. And I don't want to, leave it for misinterpretation. Guys, I cannot stress it enough. Adonis Medical Group, it is the medical group, okay? It's not just fertility clinic. It's not just, the embryo lab. Hospitals and clinics and diagnostic centers that go above and beyond just surrogacy and fertility. If we start talking about, the surrogacy journey, one of the huge benefits, for example, is also that we have a children's hospital. I know that from the moment, when you're in a maternity hospital, you're under full care of our highly experienced neonatologists. They work with you all the time. Literally, there when you're in a hospital, they will work with you on the feeding process for your child, and you're getting used to your child, on the which kind of food is better for the child. Is it, questions always come up, is it formula, is it liquid formula or not? Is it the, breast milk, donor breast milk, or what? The neonatologist will be working with you on that. They will be checking and make sure the condition of your baby is stable, the baby is developing how he or she is supposed to be developing. Then you're being discharged from the hospital. Now you still have that process, right? The time when you're still in Kiev in Ukraine, you're away from your pediatrician of your country. So that's where we have a phenomenal pediatrician, children's hospital. I cannot praise and say good things about that hospital. Literally from the moment you walk from the maternity hospital, you already have an appointment, follow-up appointment, because it's so vital to have the follow-up appointment with a pediatrician in the first week of the child birth. Anyway, so you have that. We have ambulances, private ambulances available. We have, surgeons of various categories. We have so many patients that when they're coming for the exit of the child, because you're already staying there for a long time, they're actually utilizing other services as well. So guys, just because we talk with you about one type of service, when you're traveling, please do not hesitate, do not afraid to ask what else can be done. Okay. And it's really not a silly question, because you're already spending time. The cost difference on some procedures between what you could do in your country versus, how cost effective it is and phenomenal, in Ukraine, it's already, huge plus. So yeah, so let's have those discussions if needed, but we do a very detailed planning of your exit and preparation for your travel at the third trimester, so we'll be able to discuss those things with you. And since there was a question about vasectomy, right? So when it comes to the male fertility, that question was not asked, but it's something I also don't want to, discount. Male fertility is such a big portion of the fertility question as well. And what we noticed that a lot of times, men's side of the journey does not come already with the doctor, let's say in the United States with a specific program. We had some cases where patients were not aware that they had issues with sperm, right? And once they became aware, it was phenomenal to see how, sometimes little help they were able to get in their own country of origin. So guys, please know, again, like our support and help could go beyond just, one question. We like to look at every case in a cohesive format. So yes, absolutely, we need to have, conversations about, reversal of the vasectomy, for example. If we need to have a special sperm extraction method, like TESA, MESA, TESA, and so forth. We have phenomenal urologists, phenomenal surgeons who are available and who could help you with that. So your journey can really be built from the beginning to the end, whatever is needed. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I know that the team will be listing some of the contact details. So if any questions I have not answered, and thank you so much for submitting ahead of time and for asking questions throughout the conversation. If there is any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are here to support you as much as possible and to really brainstorm the best journey for you. Okay. Bye-bye, guys.